Well, good morning, everyone from Chicago, where it's actually sunny today and probably about 35 degrees, and it's not snowing, so I'm happy. I'm Camille DeJorna. I'm the Interim Chief Diversity Officer and Deputy for Legal Education at LSAC. And it is my great pleasure to welcome you today to this year's National Blackprelaw Conference. During these unprecedented times, I'm so heartened that you are considering a career in law. As our CEO, Kelly Testi, recently said, we really need you working for justice. There's never been a better time for you to pursue a career in law because it is our pathway for a just world. You know, we belong to a community, she wrote, with the professional responsibility to work for the common good. Together, we shall continue to uphold the values of justice and equality as we build a future generation of lawyers and leaders, adding your diverse voices to our profession. At LSAC, we believe that a legal education should be attainable for all who wish to pursue it. We're always working to develop programs and initiatives to help diversify legal education. We're here to support you just as you complete your studies and pursue your enrollment journey. I will tell you more about our Plus program, for example, and some of its participants a little bit later. You're listening and you're responding to that call for justice. Applicants to law school this year are up over 30%, and November test registrants for the LSAT Flex reached over 30,000. In Maya Angelou's All God's Children Need Traveling Shoes, she wrote, through the centuries of despair and dislocation, we have been creative because we faced down death by daring to hope, by daring to dream. By daring to dream today in the US, we all have much to celebrate with the election of Vice President Kamala Harris. Ms. Harris will become, as you know, the first woman and the first Black woman to become Vice President of the United States. The President-elect recently referred to this unprecedented time as a season for healing. I believe with the election of Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, that we've moved from a season of discontent to a season of healing to a season of hope. And that's why I try to think about this talk as a season of hope, a season to dream, because you are the future. You represent the dreams. Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms said, this has been a long time coming. A woman of color, an HBCU graduate, coming at a particularly poignant moment in time, at the end of a period that included the pandemic, the killing of George Floyd, and too many others, drawing worldwide attention to police brutality and systemic racism in Black and brown communities in the US. The New York Times reported that from the earliest days of her childhood, Kamala Harris was taught that the road to racial justice was long. She spoke often on the campaign trail of those who had come before her, of her parents, immigrants from India and from Jamaica, where my own family is from originally, drawn to the civil rights struggle in the US and of the ancestors who had paved the way. Carol Moseley Braun, the first African-American woman elected to the US Senate, made a mental list as soon as she heard the news of Harris's historic victory. Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman elected to Congress, and the first woman and African-American to seek the nomination for president of the US. A side story, she was West Indian, and I had the chance to learn the electric slide at her 85th birthday party. Yvonne Brathwaite Burke, the first African-American woman to represent the West Coast in Congress, and Barbara Jordan, a civil rights leader who was the first African-American elected to the Texas Senate after Reconstruction and the first Southern African-American woman elected to Congress. I thank the Lord, said Moseley Brown, that the dream had finally come true, that the work of our Shiros had not been in vain. So I'd like to encourage you today that if you're thinking about law school, there are many routes to achieving that dream. Sometimes you choose the route, and sometimes the route chooses you. I'd like to tell you a little bit today about my route to law school. Some of you heard me talk about it earlier. It was not traditional, but I share some of my journey and the journeys of others so that you can believe in yourself and your ability to attend, endure, and graduate from law school and have a satisfying career. These stories are now your stories to hold on to, that when the road gets a bit rough, there are challenges ahead. The LSAC team is also looking forward to assisting you with that journey and to hold on to those stories and the meaning that they hold for you. I'm a child of the Brown v. Board of Ed generation, as Professor David Wilkins recently reminded us at the hashtag Black Lawyers Matter conference. But my uncle, Ewart Guinier, he was a child of the Depression. He was born in Panama of Jamaican parents. He attended high school in Boston, and in 1929, he entered Harvard College as a freshman. He was the only Black student in the college. So let me repeat that. He was the only Black student at Harvard College. Imagine. He told us growing up that because of his color, he was banned from the dormitories. He was denied financial aid because he'd failed to send his picture with his application. And he was spoken to inside and outside of class by only one person. After 2 years, he dropped out. But he completed his studies for a bachelor's degree at City College of New York and received a master's degree from Columbia University, and finally, yes, a law degree from NYU. My uncle was also active in politics. He lived in New York City and was the first African American to receive a party's nomination for the Manhattan Borough presidency. As the American Labor Party's candidate for office in 1949, he received over 96,000 votes, or 16% of the total votes cast. His commitment to social equality and justice and his law degree led him to a meaningful and impactful life. The last phase of his working life found him returning actually to Harvard. He assumed a full professorship in 1969 after the university, in response to the demands of Black students, established the Department of African American Studies. He became the founding director. After his retirement in 1980, he became their professor emeritus, and his daughter, Lonnie Guinier, later became the first tenured Black woman faculty member at Harvard Law School. In 1980, when my uncle was retiring, I attended NYU Law School as a parent with 3 children. And it was his story that got me through the difficult days of law school. I thought no matter how hard it was for me, it was actually much harder for him when he attended, and he had made it through. In 1980, the ABA was actually not tracking African American numbers for law school. So I can assure you that at my law school, there were a very small number. In 1987, when they started collecting statistics on minority enrollment, there were about 175 law schools, and the total minority enrollment was 11%. By 1990, African American matriculants in law school were a little over 6% of the total number. By 2019, the number had increased to over 7%. Among 1Ls enrolled in the fall of 2019, 31% are members of minoritized groups. Well, to return to my voyage and my story about law school, at one point during my first year of law school, our contracts teacher actually called for the LSATs to be released of all the Black students in the first year class. The Black students and allies in his class stood and walked to the back of the room in protest. When asked why we were standing, I replied, "We're standing in memory of Rosa Parks, sir. We received an apology soon after from the dean. So find your voice and use your voice." I'm sharing these stories to tell you that if we did it, overcoming so many obstacles, you can do it too. You must be resilient and undeterred by obstacles and not afraid to reach out for support and the importance of building community wherever you are. But that's actually the meaning of being Black in America. You must find your voice, use your voice, and speak your conscience. To assist you with your journey, LSAC has founded initiatives like the PLUS program, hosted annually in the summer by member law schools. The program for sophomores from underrepresented communities focuses on the skills necessary to succeed in law school and provides networking opportunities with law students, law faculty members, lawyers, and judges. LSAC funds these programs at over $1 million a year. Star Gibbons, a third-year student at North Carolina State University, is a first-generation college student who had never seen a law school application or interacted with law professors or law students for that matter. The PLUS program, she reported, gave her that opportunity to engage with a lawyer who, like her, was a Black woman, who was even familiar with the small town where she grew up. I know that there will be barriers to accessing law school and succeeding in law school, she wrote, but as a first-gen Black woman from a limited socioeconomic background, the program was designed to make my legal career goals more accessible, despite these barriers. Mamadou Jawo's journey to law school at the University of Wisconsin began during his childhood in the Gambia, in West Africa, where his dad was a police officer. Going to the police station, he wrote, "I didn't feel right about the prison conditions for the inmates." After moving to the US in his junior year for high school, he became more interested in con law. He majored in criminal justice in college and worked at a small law firm as an office assistant. Mamadou enrolled in the PLUS program at Wisconsin, and he took courses in legal writing and constitutional law. He entered the University of Wisconsin Law School this fall, where he's now interested in international criminal law and in human rights law. A recent study by LSAC found that the PLUS alumni improved their undergraduate GPAs from freshman year to law school application. They were more likely to be admitted to law school and were admitted to more law schools. So look for the applications to this year's PLUS program on our website in mid to late January. Lonnie Guinier, who David Wilkins called one of the great social engineers for justice, wrote, "We have a gift, not a grievance. Legal education is strengthened by including those who were once left out. Our gift then is to help institutions turn silence into insight, to make a chorus of many voices, contending, we can share our stories so the rest of the world gains from our knowledge and experience. To paraphrase Nikki Giovanni, one purpose of leadership is to build more leaders. One purpose of telling our stories is to speak until those who follow gain a voice." Professor Guinier added, "We shall speak until all the people gain a voice." Kamala Harris's election signals that the face of leadership does change, that we do have a role to play beyond being supporters and advocates and adjutants, that we can be the leaders of this country. And I think it is an exceptional moment that we are experiencing in this country. This was a statement from Stacey Abrams, the Georgia gubernatorial candidate. "It's a privilege," she wrote in This Nation, "to be able to see yourself reflected in the face of leadership, and for both the African-American community and the Indian American community, and Jamaicans, I might add, and for women of color at large," said Stacey Abrams. and that was about the election of Kamala Harris. As she took the stage in Texas shortly before the election, Ms. Harris spoke of being singular in her role, but not solitary. I'm going to repeat that. She spoke of being singular in her role, but not solitary. Yes, sister, she said, sometimes we may be the only one that looks like us walking into that room. She said this to a largely Black audience in Fort Worth. But remember, the thing that we all know is that we never walk into those rooms alone. We are all in that room together. So I'd like to leave you with a little reading from Praise Song for the Day, an occasional poem written by the American poet Elizabeth Alexander. And she delivered this at the 2009 presidential inauguration of President Barack Obama. Praise Song for the Day. We encounter each other in words, words spiny or smooth, whispered or declaimed, words to consider, reconsider. We cross dirt roads and highways that mark the will of some and then others. Others who said, I need to see what's on the other side. I know there's something better down the road. We need to find a place where we are safe. We need to walk into that which we cannot yet see. Say it plain that many have died for this day. Sing the names of the dead who brought us here, who laid the train tracks, raised the bridges, picked the cotton and the lettuce, built brick by brick the glittering edifices that they would then keep clean and work inside of. So praise song for struggle, praise song for the day, praise song for every hand-lettered sign and figuring it out at kitchen tables. Some live by love thy neighbor as thyself. Others by first do no harm or take no more than you need. What if the mightiest word is love? Love beyond marital, filial, national. Love that casts a widening pool of light. Love with no need to preempt grievance. In today's sharp sparkle, this winter air, anything can be made. Any sentence begun on the brink, on the brim, on the cusp. Praise song for walking toward that light. Thank you very much, and I really want to be with you on your journey and hope that you all enjoy the rest of the program and pursue your dreams of making a just future. Thank you very much.